Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, everybody. So I'm just trying to, tag some people in. I've been quite the busy bee as of lately, and I want to get a chance to, talk to everybody, give them a message. Haven't even been able to get out and do as much shot gates as I would like. And I do intend to get out there and do those shot gates, but I'm tagging some people into this right now so folks could at least maybe get this later or whatever. Give me a second. Anyway, good morning. Hey, Darrell. Good morning, my brother. Listen, I'm gonna do this a little bit different. I normally would get on here and try to have a little music intro. I'm not gonna do that. What I'm going to do today is I'm gonna treat this as a shop gate of some sorts, and we're gonna start off with a pledge allegiance to the flag. So, virtually at home, let's do that. Let's put our hands on our heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Give me a moment of silence for those who might have passed since the last time we have spoken, met, or shop-gated. Okay. All right, good morning, everybody. So I just wanted to kind of give you what the updates are, as we all have busy lives, and sometimes we're not able to come to union meetings, and sometimes we miss the shop gate, especially the scheduling that we do have. But one of the reasons that I want to at least talk to you, because there's a lot of information that's always out there that doesn't necessarily go in line with the facts, and I'm just want to put factual stuff out there so you can put that in your files for knowledge and basically understand what we're doing. Now, as of lately, I've been meeting with the senior vice president of the Department of Buses, and there's an interesting thing that the Department of Buses is trying to do, and they're trying to put bus racks on buses that go over certain bridge crossings. Now, in the OA, the M60 has been targeted to have these bus racks. Now, we went out there and we went out there to test these bus racks, and by the way, we learned about it by accident, that what they were trying to do. So we got them to set up a testing. It was myself, Sean Battaglia, and an operator from Quill, and we tested out the bus rack, And what we found that there was problems. The problem we found is that the view is in the bottom portion of the windshield on the buses. So I immediately after that testing, we didn't do too much conversating about it, except for what we were doing on the video and complaining. Right, so we made our complaints. We rode we did a round trip on the M60, and then we came back, and the very next day I sent an email out to Frank Anacara, who was the senior vice president of the Department of Buses and the president of MTA Bus. I sent out that email expressing our dismay of it, and expressing that this is an unsafe thing for them to put into the system, at least operating in Manhattan. I don't think that would be like a logical and wise choice. So what I was told and I was responded to was that this particular thing has not, he hasn't had a report from system safety, and he hasn't had a report from safety and training. So then my next conversation and email went to Benny Serrano from Safety and Training. So Safety and Training seemed to be a bit upset that I had sent that email out, and they informed me that the representative that they had from Safety and Training indicated in his reporting that we didn't have a problem with the bus racks, and I basically told him that he's full of shit. We did have a problem. We let you know what those problems were. We sat in the seat. We sat in the seat from my position of my height, and I'm not a tall man, and it's more problematic for a person who's short than it is for a person who's tall. And I also let them know that the fact that you're putting more responsibility on the operator, which in turn he argued back that he's not really putting he's not allowing, or should I say he's not putting all that responsibility onto us. But the fact is, it is something that's more responsible for us. So what I have done is I sent messages out to him as well, and I have decided I'm going to file a grievance on it, and it's going to be a safety grievance. This one I want to be smart about it though, because this thing has already been in the system for the last 7 years. It's been in the system in Staten Island on, I think, the S79 as a pilot program, and it's also been on the Q. I want to say the Q23, or is now the Q50, that crosses over the Whitestone Bridge. So this thing has been into play already now for the past 7 years. But what had happened is the state of New York legislators, they want to put, they use terms that sometimes we don't all understand. Now, what they want to do with that is they wanted to expand micromobility. So what is micromobility? Micromobility is a term that they use to get things like bicycles, who normally, if you're on a bike, you wouldn't use our buses in order to travel because you're on your bike. So they want to incorporate and bring bikes onto the buses, not physically onto the buses, but where you can put them onto the rack. They pay their fare, get off, then continue riding on. So they consider that micromobility, and they want to expand on that. And it wasn't clear to me, but I believe that they are the MTA is getting money for it, which is why this fight is going to be very interesting, because it's like a catch-22. You cut off your nose to spite your face, maybe. I don't know. But I'm more interested in what's really safe for the operators. So we're going to fight that using some type of safety mechanism. Also, I just want to let y'all know, like, the transit authority, and particularly our department, the Department of Buses, they're always looking for something to cut. Now they want to cut the fat. They came to me. They don't want to they don't want to cut routes, as you will, and they're looking for ways to cut fat because they talk about this financial cliff that they're all on. Right now, make no mistake about it. There is a financial cliff. It's real, but we're understanding that we're going to get some type of funding from the state of New York. And we also understand that maybe the city of New York is included in that funding. So that still remains to be seen. However, going back to what I said about cutting the fat, the MTA, they came to me and they asked me how would my members feel about more swing runs, right? This way they can be able to make more money and so on and so forth. So my answer was, how will it impact my head counts if I did so, if we was to agree to something like that? And they played stupid with me. They said, "Oh, we didn't even think about that. We don't want to do nothing that's going to impact your head counts." So I said, "Well, right now in our contract on the OA side and the TA side, we have 70% of the runs have to be straight runs, while 30% are swing runs. So in order for them to even give us more swing runs, we would have to agree to it in the contract. And I don't think that's something that I'd be so willing to be dealing on, because the way I see it for the future, it will reduce the head counts in the Department of Buses, which I think that they're eyeing on. So just stay tuned on that. I want to explain to you, we won a major victory on our pick practices, right? And a lot of people who are new, they want to know, well, what are the pick practices and why are they a bit different from Brooklyn? And the thing about MaBstoa, it was Manhattan and Bronx, and the Brooklyn division, we've always functioned under separate contracts, right? And that's been happening for many years. And then in 2002, we came to an agreement, our union, to consolidate the two. And part of it was to benefit the Transit Authority. They wanted to standardize a lot of things to the TA level, such as pay practices, standardize work practices and pay practices down to the TA level, right? And then if you were hired before December 16th of 2002, you stayed under the pick practices that were in effect in the OA. Anybody hired after December 16th of 2002 fell under the TA pay practices. And what the TA pay practices were a little bit, they were a little bit beneath the OA pay practices, which is why the Transit Authority wanted us to agree to that. Now, moving forward in the agreement, or in the contract negotiation, we had an MOU, which is a memorandum of understanding, and that was attachment E of the bus consolidation agreement. Now, in that bus consolidation agreement, they agreed to that MaBstoa's pick practices would be maintained, right? But they just used that word, maintain. So now, for the past, I would say, since 2002, and we're in year 2023. So we're talking about 21 years later, what the transit has been trying to do, because we don't always have an issue with our picks. But what had occurred last year, we had the Bronx redesign, where they had a mass movement of runs, right? So what they wanted to do is they wanted to create a system that was the TA system had already in their contract. But we have to remember, we were promised that our pick practices would be maintained. But meanwhile, now you're trying to put us down to another pick practice. So we filed a grievance. The arbitrator ruled during that time that we can have the pick of Manhattan and the Bronx, but what they also also didn't make it precedent setting. So now, fast forward to this year, I've been having conversations with senior level managers about the potential closing or partial closing of Michael J. Quill Depot, and in those discussions, they wanted me to agree to a Manhattan only pick. And I told you, I expressed to them that we don't function that way because Manhattan and Bronx is under one seniority list and always has been. So we can't pick one borough without picking the other. So, they gave some pushback and they believed that they would win that fight. And then when they came out with their scheduling, they didn't even give us the courtesy of a Manhattan only pick. They gave us a depot pick and didn't even discuss that the people can follow the work. So what had happened is the division chair of Manhattan, Sean Battaglia, filed a grievance, and we had a step 2, and then we end up fighting that battle. And ultimately, through all our evidence, contract languages from the old OA agreements, and some proofs that we provided, showed that our pick practices had to be maintained, and this is what was meant by the maintaining of our pick practices in 2002. So the arbitrator ruled in our favor, and now it's solidified. Now, whenever something happens, an interruption of any sort happens, where they have to move work, close a depot, whatever, they have to do a whole pick of the system. Now, just to be fair, in our grievance, our remedy wasn't just to have a Manhattan and Bronx pick. Our remedy was to have a consolidated pick. And the reason why we wanted that remedy, because if we can grab Brooklyn into that, and then it would cost the transit authority like way more money, because a full consolidated pick encompasses a lot more. And the arbitrator the arbitrator rejected that, and the TA had some impediments in the contract anyway in section 5.1 that prevents that type of thing from happening. So we solidified and we solidified our pick. So that means that whenever there's an interruption, you guys are entitled to move around and follow maybe work or whatever, and ultimately respect your seniority, which has to be the utmost. So now moving on. We have a lot of folks out here that's on social media, right? And I just need y'all to be very mindful and careful of your actions, especially when you're wearing that MTA uniform. Because when you got that MTA uniform on, right, what happens is your actions, whatever you're doing, somebody is out there recording you. And then then they put it on social media, and then that thing can catch fire. And once it catch fire, it becomes part of whatever it is that when you had your MTA uniform, it becomes part of what's considered your conduct on or off duty at times. But especially when you have the MTA uniform on, the conduct is something that you have to maintain at all times. And everybody's got a phone, and everybody's putting it in your face. Just you be professional at all times. That's just my best advice for you, because when things get out of hand, it will get to labor relations. You may think that it's not supposed to get there, but it's going there. And I just think the best thing for me to do is to let you guys know, and I'm going to keep reminding you of that, right? Just like we have to keep reminding everybody about the cell phones, the cell phone violations. Stay off. Keep your conduct in a manner that is consistent with New York City transit policy, so that videos and things like that don't get out there catching us in the bad light, right? Very important, especially during this contract time that's getting ready to come up, because our contract expires on May 15th. Now, moving on, TPPA, which is our security department. I represent the OA part of it, but the TA part of the security department I do not represent. So I was in a meeting, and in that meeting, there was a lot of back and forth arguments because they started bringing like an allied security onto certain areas of transit. Particularly, they was in Flatbush Depot because there was some type of domestic thing that happened over there, and they was there just for like maybe 10 days to maybe stop the or prevent any violence that might have came from it. I'm not too clear about that. However, when we was in the meeting, I asked for a head count. Give me a head count. How many TPP do we have consolidated, like, between us and the OA and between us and the TA? And it's about 300 of us all together, right? It's 300 TPPA agents, OA and TA combined. And they currently have an OA class coming up, which is a resume class, which is a resume application in order to get that job. But I will, definitely bring you more up to speed on that. Now, the problem that I have, like, you can go into any depot, and I'll just say, let's use the Brooklyn division for instance. You can use any depot where you see TPPA, right? And maybe one day you might not see a TPPA, you might see something else going on. It's going to be up to us as the operators and the union to maybe get the information back to me so I can get the information back to my counterpart, because TPPA on the TA side is not represented by the Department of Buses. They are represented by Car Equipment Division. And if we don't let them know what's going on, they may not know. And then sometimes the agent don't know to let their people know, because they think maybe this is the norm. And I'll give you a case in point. We have the bus command center right now. On the bus command center, we have TP property protection over there. But property protection, that's the TA side property protection. They belong to CED. Now you have the new bus command center. Who do they put there? They put Allied Security there. Now, I don't have a right to challenge it. That's not my department nor my division. But I think that should be challenged because there's some awards. It's called the Vapor Award, which means that certain work is just automatically our work. But if it's left unchallenged, then really we don't really have nothing to say after a certain period of time. And car equipment, they have car maintenance, overhaul shops. They have car cleaners, TPPA. They have a lot. They represent a lot of folks. I think maybe their security is probably a minor part of their operations. So they need the eyes and the ears so we can let them know what's going on, so we can fight when it's something doesn't look right away. So we're going into contract negotiations very soon. And one of the things that I'm interested in is, because when our people go and get reclassified or they can no longer operate a bus, in the past we was allowed to have them reclassified to property protection. It ain't easy. It's not as easy to do that anymore, simply because you need a security background in order to get that job. So you may be able to pass medically, but you may not be able to pass because you don't have a security background. So I'm working on that with our training and upgrade fund, Charles Jenkins. I've expressed what the issues were, and what we're going to try to do is get more funding, and we're going to try to make, as part of the curriculum and courses in training and upgrade fund, is to offer some type of security training, so that you guys can go out there and get that security training, and hopefully before some type of reclassification happens, or even if it's you get reclassified, maybe it's something we could just send y'all to. But this is something that I'm interested in and I'm pushing. So stay tuned on that. I'll be reporting on that and making sure that everybody is aware of that, because it's very important, especially if you're a MaBstoa bus operator. You only have one path for demotion, and that's really cleaner. And it could be transportation cleaner, or it can be maintenance cleaner, or you can or property protection. But we need the security background in order to make that happen. So I'm working on that, guys. So just I'll give me some time on that. I know it's an issue. That's why I brought it up. COPE. I want to talk about COPE real quick. All right. This is not going to be a long live, or maybe it is a little long, but I want to touch on some points with COPE, because, in a lot of forums, people may not like how the union has chose politicians to support, and then because of that, they say, well, what am I paying COPE for? And then they withdraw their COPE funds, or they put messaging out to withdraw their COPE funds. And let me tell you something. That's COPE funds, while it's voluntary, right? It's very important that we have a presence with the political beings, because as a public sector worker, you need the politicians to pass many of the laws that like, such as pensions, Tier 6. Let's talk about Tier 6 for a minute. Tier 6 has to be changed, right? But in order for Tier 6 to get changed, it doesn't get changed on its own. It doesn't get changed by us, the union, going up there and say, we want it changed. We have to go, it requires COPE dollars. It requires our political action person who's lobbying for us on our behalf. They go up. Sometimes they have to take these people out to dinner. Sometimes they have to get, have little meetings. And that's what the politicians, let's face it, that's what these politicians look for. They don't look for nothing where they have to pay for anything. So your COPE dollars pay for that, right? So your COPE dollars, we have our particular political action director. Her name is Sharice DeBose. Very good. She's very known up there. I was just up there at the Black and Latino and Asian Caucus a couple of weeks ago, and then I started to even with my time on the job, I started to really recognize how the political process works, and what your COPE is actually paying for, and your COPE dollars are there to have the presence of your president be able to talk and have friends up in Albany, not only in Albany, the federal government. Now, when I was away at the International Executive Board, I was looking over some of those documents, right? And then I was looking at what the TWU in itself was involved in order to prevent layoffs during the pandemic. That's very important for you to know, that we got federal dollars that prevented layoffs in a lot of transportation sectors across this country that TWU represent, including New York City Transit, right? And it's important for you to know that, because you hear a lot of folks. I'm not here to judge who you support when it comes to the President of the United States. There's many people that support different candidates, independent, Republican, Democrat, whatever. But I'm going to make one thing known to you. If it wasn't for them federal dollars that came under Biden, we wouldn't, there's a possibility of layoffs, right? And it was our union and our political action department and your COPE dollars that got that done, right? But nobody talks about that. And I believe, and I'm gonna tell you something. I believe, and I'm gonna get into it a little later, because I'm gonna tell you some of the committees that I'm on, and the committees that I'm on, that I'm gonna try to bring this information out to you guys out there. And the reason being that it's important to get this information to you guys is because we don't need misinformation out there. And I believe if you know what really happens, that you'll understand that this is important. This is important for my livelihood and my maybe my kids' livelihood in the future. You know, we politics is just part of this whole thing, right? Let's let me also explain to you that like some of the things that I do that I've been doing as your vice president. And you know, I attend grievance and discipline meetings, and I attend these meetings because we're trying to make that process better, and we're trying to get like instead of people who are at the, you know, who maybe are hired by our union to monitor things, we need like the people who've actually been in the trenches, such as myself, because I was a division chair before I became a vice president. And then I did hearings. I did a lot of hearings. I filed a lot of grievances. And we just trying to, we have our meetings with grievance and discipline, and then we trying to formulate a system for better tracking and one of the reasons, and I got to tell you, this is very important, and I'm just going to throw this out there. It's not even part of my agenda. The RTO, Rapid Traction Operations, they had a major victory on their pick practices. Now, though I'm not mentioned in any of that, and I don't need to be, you know, we were very helpful in our department to the RTO department. I was actually even in the hearing, because PICS is something that we've always been fighting, and we've battle tested at it. So I offered my what I basically in offering my expertise, we was able to identify certain things. And then what I found quite funny is when we was in arbitration, the Transit Authority tried to pull up a arbitration decision that we lost back in around 2010. It was the Ingram decision, right? The Ingram decision was like a health and safety grievance that we filed, and they actually tried to use it in the RTO decision, but we were there, right? Hold on one second, guys. It's the wife calling. I'll be on my way in a few. Okay. All right. Anyway, so the RTO decision, the MTA tried to use that Ingram decision against us, right? And then what ended up happening is I was there because I actually did that grievance. So what they actually tried to do in RTO, like for you guys in the Department of Buses, you know how we pick, right? I don't have to go and explain how we pick. Well, in RTO, how they pick pretty much similar ways, like straight jobs. They have audio floaters, and they have an extra list and a super extra list, or extra list. Now, what they was trying to do in RTO is create what I would consider like a vacation or an audio floater on a daily basis. That means from maybe Monday, Tuesday, maybe Monday you worked one run in the trains. Then Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday you worked something else. Then Friday you work something else. And then it's different in RTO because your reporting locations can change from, let's say, Parsons Boulevard to Westchester Square in the Bronx. It's really like, it really was like messing with people's lives. And the fact that they try to come up with a decision that didn't have anything to do with why we lost that grievance, and it didn't apply to their pick practice grievance at all. And we was there, and I got on the stand to dispute that. Our president, Richard Davis, got on the stand, because me and him, when he was a division chair and I was his vice chair in the division, we used to fight a lot of these battles. So when they try to bring that up, we're like, wait a second, we was there. And then kudos to Richie, because Richie made a big time argument about like you guys is trying to cut off, you one thing you say is, oh, you are essential heroes, our central people, and we were there during the pandemic, and then you want to cut our legs from under us from another department, and then tell us to love it and like it, right? No, it doesn't. Life doesn't work that way, and we're gonna call you out on it. And Richie Davis did call the people out on it and let them know that we lost hundreds of people during the pandemic, and then you're gonna tell me and sit up here and tell us that this is good? This is not good. This was horrible. So we won, right? And it was a huge victory, which you won't really hear why it's huge, but I'm going to tell you why it's huge. Because when something happens in another department, it can have an impact on all departments, which is why I sit on the grievance and discipline meetings, because sometimes when grievances go forward or even disciplinary stuff, when grievances go forward, we have to be ready to make sure that it doesn't have an impact across the whole bargaining unit. Now, what does that mean? The whole bargaining unit is, in fact, the whole bargaining union is TW Local 100 in all its departments, right? So we all have picked languages. We all have something that's similar in the contract across the board. If one fails in one department, it can have an impact on everybody else. So I sit on the grievance and discipline department. I also sit on communications department as a liaison. So what that really means, and this is all recent, by the way, since I became the vice president, and since Richard became the president, Richard Davis became the president, he started like giving assignments to folks in areas of their expertise in order so that we can get the information out to our membership, right? So I sit on the communications. I sit on communications meeting, not as really nothing to do with a decision making, but I have an input. So my input is to say, well, we got to get this out to the members, and we got to get it out this way, not say basic shit that the member will be like, oh, okay, well, whatever. No, we have to tell them what it really means and why this is very important and why it's important for you and your livelihoods, right? That's the kind of messaging we have to get out there, right? And that includes ethnicity events such as the Black History celebration, and then now we have Cole Connolly Day coming up. And by the way, that's very soon on the 15th. Make sure you guys is in the house at the Union Hall. Cole Connolly Day. They do a nice event. Also Lobby Day. We these things just don't materialize. We actually have to sit in meetings. We have to sit in 2-hour meetings and discuss what we have to do for our members, right? So it takes some time to put it together. And our political action director is there, and we get updates on what's going on in Albany. And sometimes we just can't talk about it. And I just need y'all to be patient with that. We just can't talk about everything because everybody wants to put things on social media. And once it's out there on social media and then we don't have something secured yet, you can almost guarantee you won't get it secured at all. All right. I'm getting down to the last few things. I do want to tell you, yesterday we had our contract policy committee meeting. What is that? Okay. So the contract policy committee meeting is a meeting that is required by the TW Local 100 bylaws. It's required by the bylaws, and then what happens is we take all your demands, right? And once you get all the demands, we go to a contract policy committee meeting, and then we have a vote by each division accepting the demands. What we have to do is, if you have 40 demands, right, we have to actually cut those down because the bylaws requires it, right? The bylaws requires that we put realistic demands down and try to obtain those demands through collective bargaining. And those collective bargaining occur through departmentals, and they also occur through what's considered main table. Now, economic Anything economic is main table. Anything that's a departmental, they're not supposed to be economic, but it can be economic. We can negotiate some economic things as long as we're willing to talk and negotiate and maybe swap things. That can happen at a departmental bargaining table. So what we did was we got our demands together in the Department of Buses, and everybody else's division. We had a vote on it on the executive board. We voted on it at the contract policy committee meeting first to send it to the executive board. The executive board accepted it and approved it. And at some point, the local will let you know what's going on, but we won't say we won't say anything until an official presentation happens with the Transit Authority or the MTA. So you gotta stay tuned on that. We will not put demands up here on social media. It won't happen this way, because if it does, you can almost guarantee you won't get what you was asking for. So, the OA dispatcher, decision. We had lost that decision for transit support coordinators to be to participate in that test. But I just wanted to let you guys know that we're going to go to court with that. It's probably going to be a bit of a process, but I'll keep you guys in the loop of what's going on with that. On ending this, now we have a traffic checker who was a level 2 supervisor who got recently demoted back to traffic checking, and they was attempting to obtain their seniority. It was 10 years out of the department. They was attempting to get their seniority as a traffic checker, and I'm standing in the way of it. I won't allow it. And one of the reasons why I won't allow it, because a lot of the DANs, disciplinary action notices, had this particular supervisor's name on them, and they hurt a lot of checkers, and a lot of checkers got fired under that particular person's watch. The only thing that I will not do is bring the person's name up, but there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot. This union does a lot, right? All I ask is, you know what, brothers and sisters, please get involved. Get involved. Know the truth. It's not what you're seeing on social media. Believe you me, I'm in there. It's not nothing nowhere near what you see on social media. It's not. There's a lot that goes on. Kudos to Richard Davis. He's doing things that I might not even thought that he could do. And what he's doing is he's putting together a lot of meetings. He's shifting people around to who have expertises in their fields. We have a lot of meetings, like I said, and the meetings is you have to have meetings because you have to see what's going on. There's a lot of movement pieces, a lot of movements going on, and what we're trying to do is make this union work for you guys. And all we want you to do is be involved in that process, because this ain't the officers' meeting. This ain't the officers' union. This is all of our union at the end of the day, right? When you get involved in representing people, let me tell you something. It's an honor to represent all of you guys. Believe you me, it's an honor. And there's a lot of work that goes out here. While you guys are at the tools doing your job, I'm telling you, there's a lot of work. And anybody who's not willing to do that work should not be a representative at all. But with that being said, listen, your union is doing what they can for you, and we're working very, very hard. We just have to be together. Forget about the negativity. Remember, together, we make a difference. All of us make a difference together. Be safe, be well, love y'all.